Big Papa Pump 96 back, another WWE DV review. The last one I did was Greatest Stars of the 90s, so I figured what the heck, I'll go backwards. Greatest Wrestling Stars of the 80s. This was definitely the more appropriate of the two to have Hulk Hogan on, because if there was a time where he was better, I would probably say it was the 80s, and they didn't put that much of him on the Greatest Stars of the 90s, so this was a good DVD to have him on. Roddy Piper, Ric Flair, Sergeant Slaughter. The cover's okay. I mean, a few different changes I think would have been appropriate. Like Sergeant Slaughter probably could have been replaced by somebody better. But the inside, for instance, I think the cover maybe could have had Arn Anderson, Dusty Rhodes would have been a good one. And it's the inside there. Um, the insert, once again, I think that could have been a little bit better. It has Sergeant Slaughter on the back. You have Ricky Steamboat, who I think was one of the greatest stars of the 80s for sure. Let's see some matches. Disc 1 has the short stories, I guess you would say, of Bobby the Brain Heenan, JYD, Junkyard Dog, Sergeant Slaughter, Greg the Hammer Valentine, and Rowdy Roddy Piper. Uh, Dog collar match. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. Greg the Hammer Valentine versus Roddy Piper. Excellent match. Sergeant Slaughter, Iron Sheik. That feud never interested me anytime I've seen it come up. Greg Valentine, Tito Santana was a okay match. Junkyard Dog versus Randy Savage. I like Junkyard Dog because he's from New Orleans, and that's where I'm from as well. Versus Randy Savage, and I've done a DVD review of him, so if you want to see what I think of him, you should go watch that video. Ultimate Warrior versus Bobby Heenan and the Weasel Suit match. Um, Ultimate Warrior pulls off the victory, and you get to see Bobby Heenan in a weasel suit. This too has the short stories of Jerry the King Lawler, Arn Anderson, which is one of my favorites of all time, which I'll tell you why in just a minute. Dusty Rhodes, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and Ric Flair. So of all the discs on here, this has the greatest of all of them right here, the greatest stars of the 80s. Uh, Dusty Rhodes versus Ric Flair, $1 Million Challenge match was a great match. Those two guys are both good. Dusty Rhodes never had the best body. He was always a fan favorite. I'll even say he's better than Hulk Hogan. Sure, why not? Ole and Arn Anderson, the Minnesota Wrecking Crew, versus Wahoo McDaniel and Billy Jack Haynes. Could have been better. I always liked Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard a little bit better than I liked Ole and Arn. Jerry the King Lawler versus Kerry Von Erich. That was a pretty good match, and to be in 1988, it was kind of brutal. The match eventually stopped after Kerry Von Erich had a cut above his eye and was threatening to impair his vision. NWA Championship match: Ricky Steamboat versus Ric Flair. Best match on here. I can't even, words can't explain how this match is, how good it is. So you have to watch it. Ric Flair versus Jay Youngblood. I guess that was an okay match. And it can't be that bad because Jay Youngblood and Ricky Steamboat used to be tag team partners. So I'm sure Jay Youngblood had used some of Ricky Steamboat's moves, so that has to make that good. And Disc 3, the stories of Jimmy Superfly Snuka, Cowboy Bob Orton, Iron Sheik, Paul Orndorff, and Hulk Hogan. The interesting thing about the stories on this disc is Jimmy Superfly Snuka. He actually talks about how his move, the Superfly, which was a body splash from the top rope, came about when he lived on the islands he grew up on. He would go up on the cliff, and they would jump into the water from really high cliffs. And he also explained why he always did the little, what we know as the rock and roll symbols before. Apparently in the place where he grew up, that means I love you, so I guess he would just kind of throw that up to all his fans and then put his body on the line. So that was pretty interesting. Jimmy Snuka, Bob Backlund was okay. Iron Sheik, Bob Backlund again. I got kind of tired of seeing Bob Backlund because I don't think he's all that great, so that one didn't really interest me. Paul Orndorff versus Salvatore Bellomo was okay. Iron Sheik versus Hulk Hogan. They should have picked somebody, a different match of Hulk Hogan's to put on here. I already don't like him all that much, so they definitely should have put a more interesting match on here. Cowboy Bob Orton versus Jimmy Snuka. I don't remember Bob Orton as being much of a wrestler as much as him being the bodyguard of Roddy Piper. And then the war to settle the score, Madison Square Garden, Roddy Piper, Hulk Hogan, was a pretty good match. And I mean, it's an okay DVD. I don't think it's as good as Greatest Stars of the 90s, so if I had to pick one of those and somebody told me I could only have one, I would definitely pick Greatest Stars of the 90s. But it's kind of cool to have in your collection, especially right next to the Greatest Stars of the 80s. And I believe my friend Justin88524 was telling me the other day, he goes on WWEDVDnews.com. They're going to come out with a Greatest Superstars of the 21st Century DVD, and it will be going next to the Greatest Stars of the 80s and 90s to kind of complete that little section of a collection. So, you guys, this is a pretty good DVD, and that logo right there, some WWE legends in here. So, good DVD, some good matches on here. Alright, guys.